7-decades-old conflict between Israel and Palestine reignited, leaving thousands dead, hundreds injured, and many more displaced. What will it take to end the age-long conflict that have defied every effort towards peaceful resolution? Israeli and Palestinian ambassadors to Nigeria speak to the issues around this conflict. We'll also take a look at stories from across the African continent. This is Africa Update on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Ayuba Ilya. Welcome. On the program today, we shift our focus to the Israeli-Palestine conflict, where fighting between Israel and Hamas has so far claimed the lives of thousands and hundreds injured and many more displaced. The conflict pits Israeli demands for security in what it has long regarded as a hostile region against Palestinian aspirations for a state of their own. Israel's founding father, David Ben-Gurion, proclaimed the modern state of Israel on May 14, 1948, establishing a safe haven for Jews fleeing persecution and seeking a national home on land to which they cite deep ties over generations. Palestinians lament Israel's creation as the Nakba, or catastrophe, that resulted in their dispossession and blocked their dreams of statehood. In the war that followed, some 700,000 Palestinians, half the Arab population of what was British-ruled Palestine, fled or were driven from their homes, ending up in Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, as well as in Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. Israel, a close U.S. ally, contests the assertion it drove Palestinians from their homes and points out it was attacked by 5 Arab states the day after its creation. Armistice pacts halted the fighting in 1949, but there was no formal peace. Now, earlier, I spoke with both Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, Michael Freeman, and the Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, Abdullah Shawesh, over the lingering conflict. Take a look. All right, thank you again for joining us. Let's start right ahead. Now, we've been following the conversations and what's been happening. There's been a lot of reactions to what has happened. For instance, the Amnesty International is accusing Israel of targeting civilian population, an act considered a violation of international humanitarian law that could lead to war crimes. How do you respond to these reactions?
I'm very disappointed in Amnesty International's statement. Their statement makes no reference to over 600 Israelis who were slaughtered in their beds, women and children who were killed in their houses, young people at a peace party who were killed, shot whilst they partied, whilst they danced. These are people, Hamas terrorists, came into Israel. They came across the border. They came into Israel and they aimed for, targeted women and children and killed them instantly. And Amnesty makes no condemnation of that. So from my perspective, they're not a human rights organization. They're a propaganda organization who have absolutely no value. If you can't condemn the slaughter of women and children, then there really is a problem.
A lot of people have blamed Hamas for this attack and saying that they have violated international law by killing and abducting women and children. How do you respond?
Well, it's very easy to say that. Homs going against the international law is the Israeli occupation. Just last Friday, one day before this escalation is erupted, Israel killed 7 Palestinian people. Israel is occupying our territory since 1967, which means that Israel is the only one which is going against the international law and treated itself as a country above the international law. So that when it came to the international law, Israel is the only one, maybe in the world, whom is contradicting the international law. But again, this issue should be proven by the investigation, and there is a lot of UN reports that saying that, and not only UN reports, or other very respectful and intergovernmental institutions like OCHA and others proved that Hamas, that Israel is not aligning itself with the international law, and Israel is going against the international law.
But one of these international organizations, such as the Amnesty International, also has faulted Palestine, Hamas rather, for that attack, saying that attack on women and children, it's a clear war crime.
Indeed, there is no evidence at all that we, the Palestinian, attack women and the children. The only country that justify also the killing of the children is Israel. Israel was killed Muhammad Tamimi 2.5 years, just a few months ago. They assassinated him. Israel accepted that her settler gangs to burn Muhammad Abu Khdeir. Israel accepted her settler gangs, militia, whom is patrolling day and night the West Bank and our villages, accepted them and giving them all the facility to burn alive the family, the Wabshi family. This is whom is conducting a war crime against children, against the women. This propaganda is another stage of the propaganda that Israel is trying to widely will spread it, so that to justify the genocide that the Israeli army, Israeli occupation army is conducting right now in Gaza. We should be, as international community, fully aware. Is there any evidence that the Palestinian killed any Israeli women? Is there any evidence that the Palestinian killed the Israeli children? This is something that was spread by one of the journalists that mentioned she know that, or she saw that 14 bodies, babies was hair cutted, or cut the Palestinian cut their hair. Then she retreat on back of this announcement and his Twitter account and mentioned that.
So in essence, you're saying that such an attack did not take place. There wasn't attack on women and children.
Is there any evidence? I personally did not saw any evidence that showed the Palestinian attacking the women. This is against our moral. This is against our faith as a Muslim, as a Christian Palestinian. This is completely against and totally against our faith. And if it has happened, it is completely not acceptable. We should be stand firm when it came to the principle. This is completely not acceptable. This is complete. But there is evidence that Israel, since many years before the establishment of Israel, conducting tens of massacres against the Palestinians, killed the children, killed the women, and conducting massacres against the Palestinian people. This is a proven issue.
Okay, Ambassador. I mean, but is this the best way really to respond to some of this conflict? We know that there have been background to some of the things that are happening right now in the Gaza Strip. So is this really the best approach?
I ask you, how would you approach the massacre of 600 of your civilians? 600 people killed on a Jewish holiday whilst they were in their houses or they were at a peace festival. How would you react if that happened? Hundreds of Israeli citizens have been kidnapped and taken to Gaza. Women and children elderly, woman of 85 years old with dementia has been taken into Gaza. We saw how Nigeria reacted when the girls were taken, the Chibok girls were taken by Boko Haram and were kidnapped. They did everything to return them. And we're doing the same. We are acting like anyone else would react. And I ask you again, how would you react? What would you say if 600 of your citizens were slaughtered and killed, women and children targeted purely because they were Israelis?
So in their own argument, the Hamas is talking about the Al-Aqsa Mosque and what had happened there as the reason for this attack that we are seeing in Israel. So what can you say about that?
Nothing's happened at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's a complete myth. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is there. It's in Jerusalem. Muslims are able to pray freely every single day. Thousands come on a Friday to pray on Friday for holy prayers. Muslims are free to come and pray at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is there. It's still open. It's open today. It's open for people to come and pray. And we guarantee freedom of religion. So remember, this is a terror organization who are willing to slaughter women and children. So it's quite clear they're also willing to lie.
One of the questions that many people in the international community is asking is that why does Hamas insist on the use of armed conflicts to press home their demands?
Okay.
Isn't there a better way of dealing with this?
It's again, don't corner Hamas. This is not the issue between Hamas and the Israel. This is the Israeli propaganda. They are targeting just Hamas. Then they are killing all the Palestinian civilians. Israel is an open war against the Palestinian people since 1948. This is not against Hamas was born and created 20 years after the Israeli occupation to the remaining part of the historical land of Palestine. Hamas and all of these Palestinian resistant faction is a consequence of the Israeli occupation, so that we should be fully aware to go beyond the Israeli propaganda. Okay. This is not a matter this is a matter with the Palestinian, the whole entire Palestinian people.
All right. Ambassador, Israel has denied claims by Hamas about the violence at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. How do you respond to this?
Every one of you watch the Israeli violence in Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Israeli discretion of Al-Aqsa Mosque in a daily basis. Al-Aqsa Mosque at 7, it is completely closed before the Muslim till Dhuhr prayer till around 12, and this time is used to be used for the Jewish fanatic to come and to practice some of their religious practice. And the Al-Aqsa Mosque, could you imagine the Jewish is praying in Al-Aqsa Mosque? They officially claiming that this is belong to them. This is the Temple Mount. That's completely not acceptable just to take our information from the Israeli side or their supporter. There's many issues, many videos, tens of thousands of videos that proven that this is Al-Aqsa Mosque is desecrated in a daily basis around Al-Aqsa Mosque under the Israeli occupation according to the international law, period.
Okay. Is Israel concerned about the humanitarian crisis that is likely to happen or we are likely to see as a result of these attacks or this conflict?
We're concerned about every civilian. We don't want any humanitarian crisis. We want all civilians to be able to live a happy and prosperous life. The cause of this crisis is Hamas. Hamas launched a war on Israel, an absolutely disgusting, despicable war where they have targeted our civilians. And we will do everything to win that war, to keep our civilians safe, and we will do everything to avoid any civilian casualties on the Palestinian side as well. But let's be very, very clear here. Any injuries to Palestinian civilians is on the head of Hamas. It is in the head of Iran, who are backing Hamas, who are encouraging Hamas. That is who bears responsibility for anything that takes place in Gaza.
Aren't you concerned that this conflict or the recent attack would reverse all the gains of peace building with the Arab neighbors that you have?
Not at all. We are working with our neighbors. We will continue to work with our neighbors to increase peace. This is happening precisely because all of these people are against peace. Hamas are against peace. Iran is against peace. Iran is backing Hamas to try and take these actions because they don't want peace. They don't want there to be any peace between Israel and its neighbors. So they are doing everything they can, and they believe the best way to stop peace is to kill women and children. And we have to send a clear message all around the world that you cannot kill women and children. It is unacceptable. You cannot abuse the bodies of the dead. You cannot parade the dead round the streets. You cannot do what you're doing, and it will not stop peace. It will only make us more determined to achieve peace and more determined to be with our neighbors and to see what we can do. This is Iran, this is Hamas, and this is their attempt to stop peace.
All right, now, is Hamas concerned about the humanitarian crisis that this conflict has created? I mean, they should have envisaged the way in which Israel would respond in an event of an attack on Israelis. So is it really concerned about the civilian population in Palestine?
I'm pretty sure this is the ABC. We are one family. We are the Palestinian one family, whether he's belong to this political part or to the other part. We are one family. We are only in the occupied Palestinian territory 4.5 million, so that we know each other, so that we care about each life of other. I'm pretty sure we, the Palestinian, care about every life. For us, it's principle. It's a principle entrenched deeply in our faith. We care about every human life, whether he's a Palestinian, Israeli, Jew, Christian, Muslim. This is a principle that we live, and we will continue to practice it. This is something deeply entrenched in our heart.
Okay. Now, Hamas has also been accused of sabotaging peace efforts in the Middle East, and that there's every effort by the UN and Israel and the likes to come together and find a lasting solution to this conflict. But Hamas has rejected every effort for lasting peace. What do you say to that?
There is a lot of Israeli political parties completely rejecting the peace process. Would you like me to remind you that Yigal Amir was assassinated Rabin, the godfather of the peace process, so that when it came, we are a live people. Some of us is against the peace process, this current peace process, and some of us against, not the peace process or the Oslo itself, but anyone of us, of course, with the peace. And some of the Israeli themselves is completely against the peace process itself. They did not believe of the peace with the Palestinians themselves, so that they assassinated Rabin. So that the issue is, do you think that all the Nigerian, when it came to the political issue, is going on the same path? No, everyone have the right to have his political opinion. So that in Palestine we have a very rich political society. Some of us is going with the peace process. Some of us did not believing of it because they still believe that it is far away from our legitimate rights to bring to give us our legitimate rights. But again, also in the Israeli society, there is a lot of people, a lot of political parties who stand against the peace process itself. Stand against Oslo Accord.
Now, observers have blamed Israel for reneging on the Oslo Agreement, some of the things that were agreed upon in that agreement, and which is why this conflict has continued unabated. How do you respond?
I would ask you, firstly, the Oslo Accords have lots and lots of things that the Palestinians have breached. But this is not about the Oslo Accords. This is not about anything other than Hamas sending terrorists into Israel to slaughter women and children. We're talking about on a 6 o'clock on a Jewish festival, on the Holy Sabbath, hundreds of terrorists, hundreds of them came across the border. They walked into people's houses and they either knocked on the door, and when somebody answered, they shot the women and children, or they set the house on fire so that the families would have to come out of the house and then they would shoot them. This was a deliberate attempt to kill women and children, to massacre, to rape, to pillage, to do all of these things. And this has got nothing to do with Oslo. This has got nothing to do with peace. And this has to be condemned by every right-thinking human being in the world.
A statement by the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. He said that Israel will not stop at anything. In fact, he went ahead to say that Israel will turn Gaza into a deserted island. Isn't that too extreme? I mean, people have talked about that's a genocidal tendency there.
Well, I would question that quote. I haven't seen that quote myself. And what Prime Minister Netanyahu said is that we will do what we need to do to protect our citizens. We will need to do what we need to do to defend our country. This is a war that Hamas started, and we will win this war. We are going to do everything we can to protect civilian life, both in Israel and in Gaza. We care much more about the Palestinian lives than Hamas do. We care much more about what's going on there, and we will make sure that we protect them. What Prime Minister Netanyahu said, he said, what was cannot be. And I'm sure that every right-minded person in the world would say that what happened over the last 48 hours cannot be again, cannot be the same.
What will it take to bring lasting peace between Israel and Palestine? What is the Palestinian government ready to let go and sacrifice in the interest of peace?
You're asking me two questions. What is the way to have a lasting peace, and what is the Palestinian? The Palestinian Authority, President Abbas, is the man who signed the Oslo Accord itself, is the man who marketing, who working hard to reach out to the Oslo Accord, so that we are ready as a Palestinian people to sit to the negotiation table only according to the international law, and to negotiate with the Israeli and our other mediator, whom is can together we reach a lasting solution. But the 1 million question should be what is needed to make sure that we will reach peace by the end of the day. It's the applicability of the international law, implementation of the principles of the international law, treating Israel as a state, not above the international law, treating Israel likewise any other state all around the world. The international law can be applied on Israel. This is the point. Right. If you want me to say more, I can say that also treating the Western country in particular should stop treating Israel as the grumpy and spoiled teenager. Also, there is a lot of tools on the hand of the international community, the political tools, legal tools, diplomatic tools, that they can apply it. And by applying these tools, Israel will sit to the negotiation table. Right. By stopping giving Israel unlimited and unconditional support, this will put an end to the Israeli conflict.
All right. Now, what will it take to bring lasting peace? I mean, peace once and for all as regards this fighting. It has gone on for decades, and each time it happens, we see the same approach. We see the same response to this conflict. There has to be another way of dealing with this. What would it take?
There has to be another way. You're correct. There has to be another way. It has to be the way of compromise. It has to be the way of acceptance. It has to be the way of peace. Unfortunately, Iran and Hamas aren't interested in any peace or compromise. Iran and Hamas have been very clear. They want the destruction of the state of Israel. They want the death of all Israelis. This is not about a land border that they can come to some sort of compromise. They're not interested in a compromise. They want the death of every Israeli. They want the end of the state of Israel. That is not an option. And therefore, we need to make sure that those people who are against peace, those people who are against working to some sort of compromise, no longer have a say. We have to stop these terror organizations, Hamas, ISIS, Boko Haram, ISWAP, all of these terror organizations that target women and children, that are against peace, that are against peaceful living. We need to tackle them. We need to finish them. We need to get rid of them so that there is a better future for me and for my children and for my grandchildren, and just as importantly for Palestinians and for their children. We have to have a better future. But to do that, we have to stop Hamas and we have to stop Iran.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining us on the program today and sharing on this issue.
Thank you very much, and I hope for better days for all of us.
All right, bye for now. Well, Ambassador Abdullah Shawish, Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, thank you so much for joining us on this program today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, Michael Freeman, and Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, Abdullah Shawish, there bearing their minds. Now, we'll take a short break, and then when we return, we'll take a look at stories from across the African continent. Join us again. Thanks for staying with us. Now time for us to take a look at Roundup Africa with Chiamaka Nwafo.
A Nairobi court this week temporarily suspended a Kenyan government plan to deploy 1,000 police officers to Haiti. The case was brought to court by 3 petitioners, including opposition politician and constitutional lawyer Ekuru Okut. The ruling by the High Court of Kenya puts a hold on the deployment of police officers to Haiti or any other country, pending another hearing scheduled for October 24th. The UN Security Council last week approved a Kenyan-led multinational security force aimed at helping the troubled Caribbean nation. A judge in Zinkunjo, Senegal, has reversed the removal of imprisoned opposition politician Ousmane Sonko from the country's electoral rolls, potentially allowing him to run for election in February 2024. However, the state's judicial agent announced that they would appeal the judge's decision, indicating that Sonko might still not be allowed to be a candidate. Sonko, who was convicted on June 1st of debauching a minor and sentenced to 2 years in prison, has faced additional charges, including calling for insurrection, criminal association linked to a terrorist enterprise, and undermining state security. The authorities are investigating his involvement in a series of protest events since 2021, some of which led to fatalities. Liberia is counting votes following its recent election where President George Weah sought a second term. Despite tensions among rival political camps in the campaign's final days, local and regional election observers reported peaceful polling with high voter turnout. The main challenger to President Weah is former Vice President Joseph Boakai, and a runoff will occur if no candidate secures over 50% of the votes. In addition to the presidential election, parliamentary elections were held, but logistical challenges, including floods and capsized canoes in remote areas, occurred. This election is noteworthy as it marks the first participation of a generation of young voters born after Liberia's civil war. Initial results will be announced soon, with the final results expected within 15 days. And that's it on Roundup Africa.
Well, that wraps it up for Africa Update this week. You can watch more via all our social media platforms and also watch on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.